Firing up a live edition of PHNX Cardinals here downtown Phoenix. Bo Brack, our new PHNX Cardinals beat reporter. Craig Morgan joins in, of course, the award-winning producer, Damon Dawg, behind the Mac, making us sound and look so good. Thank you, Damon Dawg. I see everybody in the chat already. Lighten up those super chats. Thank you so much. Jason's in there. How about Dylan Richards? We're excited to be with all of you on this Football Monday as the Arizona Cardinals continued OTAs today. The full gang was out there. Even a return of Kelvin Beachum. I know that's a headline stealer right there. Kelvin Beachum, your swing tackle, return to the practice field. Probably not, right? I mean, on a day where we had a historic wide receiver contract, we'll get into how that impacts the Cardinals and Marvin Harrison Jr., but I am excited to announce Craig Morgan is sliding over from our hockey beat to our NFL beat. Craig, welcome.
Thank you. We don't have a hockey beat anymore.
We don't.
Yeah, and I'm already questioning, my choice of clothing here because I thought we were going to be in the other studio, and I've got these pasty white legs going. So apologies to everyone watching right now, here I am.
You've got the Stanley Cup playoff tan going on right now with those legs. Craig Morgan, and we'll explain a little deeper, but the weirdest time travel of all time, because he's been a reporter by trade for close to 30 years, but you've covered this Cardinals team 8 of those years, so close to a decade. But you went from basically the BA era, you skipped, what that mess was with Wilkes and the mess that was, for the most part, with Cliff Kingsbury, and you're right back on board with Jonathan Gannon.
It's pretty good timing, really.
Yeah,
when you look at it, I covered most of the best years of the Cardinals, but then when you think about what I was covering while I was away, it kind of evens things out a little bit.
You weren't exactly hitting like the fast forward button. You were kind of stuck there in hockey purgatory, but it was great. I mean, you love hockey. You're a puckhead. You covered it at the highest level. It was unbelievable, your coverage until the final game and beyond with the Coyotes. It was unbelievable, and we couldn't be more excited to have you part of our beat.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm going to miss covering the NHL. I'll just say that outright. And I know Damon's a Panther fan, so we can talk a little bit about that.
My cats.
Yeah, there it is. Might have to get a few plastic rats for the next set. But you like a new challenge once in a while in life. And I've been around this team. I need to learn personnel. It's going to be, as I said in my column today, it's going to be a slow process for me getting up to speed on the Cardinals. I'm not coming in with the same sort of institutional knowledge that I had on the Coyotes, but I know my way around the building at least. Not much has changed out there, actually. I understand how to be a beat writer, and I'm really looking forward to this because it feels like this team, when you look at the trajectories of teams in the Valley, I mean, the Coyotes don't have one because they're gone. Mm-hmm. The Suns, as I was chirping the show earlier, maybe in a rebuild in another year. Yeah. And the Diamondbacks, we thought maybe not. So this feels like a team that could really capture the Valley's heart. So why not jump on board right now?
A ton of opportunity. And like when you started kind of your Cardinals coverage, I mean, it was when this team was in a very different way carving its way out in a market that was starved for the football team to finally do something. And out of nowhere they did in the 08 season. Yeah, that was your first kind of glimpse of it.
I jumped on board for the Super Bowl season at the tail end of that. Got to cover the Ken Whisenhunt years, Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden. That was a fun ride. Right. And then, again, the BA years were a lot of fun, too. Carson Palmer had some good years. BA was just fun to cover, period, because he was such a big personality. We know that they didn't win much. They didn't get to the Super Bowl again after that first season. And by the way, when the Cardinals bow out of the playoffs, they really bow out of the playoffs. If you go back through history. But those were some of the best seasons, and it was enjoyable to be around the team then.
It really was. I caught the tail end of the Whisenhunt era. It was not pretty. It was one of where Kevin Cobb, I think, started 4 games. They go 4-0, and then he gets injured, and then they surrender 12 straight losses, and then that was
Remember Max Hall?
Max Hall. There was a play where I believe they scored a touchdown, but his helmet came off. And I swore.
He turned to the side.
It was turned to the side. I swore his head was going to be in his helmet on that play. Max Hall, who many quarterbacks who Larry Fitzgerald unfortunately had to catch passes from, had no business being in the NFL. But
he didn't have an NFL arm. Let's be honest about it. I remember watching a drill at camp, John Skelton and him. John Skelton had a cannon. Yeah. Now he couldn't. He had no aim whatsoever.
Yeah, couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat.
But there was a drill literally where the quarterbacks would drop back side by side and throw to opposite sidelines. Skelton's ball's out, and then you turn to Max Hall and the ball's still in the air.
It's like a butterfly.
We talked about this the other day too, Bo. That fourth win in that season with Kevin Kolb was that Dolphins game where friend of the program Brian Hartline had 253 receiving yards, and the Cardinals won by 3 points in overtime.
Now that holds up, right? That's even that's ahead of Tyreek Cheetah as far as the franchise record that remains.
That's the franchise record, yeah.
We talked to Brian Hartline, who was the receivers coach and the co-offensive coordinator for Ohio State when the Cardinals drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. Got some insight, but we also had to kind of ask him, why did he do that to our beloved Redbirds way back when? He was an AFC guy his entire career, but his career highs are all against the Arizona Cardinals, who, of course, reside in the NFC West. But a long history, an interesting one. Like you mentioned that Green Bay game that was just back and forth. I maintain like the next Green Bay game was the greatest football game I've ever seen live, where it was Aaron Rodgers, and he was just like the villain in a horror movie. He was Michael Myers. You couldn't kill him. He just kept coming back at you. Yeah. He completed 2 Hail Marys on the drive. That was back in the 2015 season. That was the divisional round. But you were talking about where Kurt Warner was just lights out in leading the Cardinals past the pack.
Yeah, in the wild card round, and he had more touchdown passes than incompletions in that game. That was one of the best playoff games I have ever watched. It was spectacular.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. That 2-year run, it gave, I think, Wiz a longer leash than maybe he deserves. But, I mean, look, took the team to back-to-back postseason. At that time, probably the most successful run until the BA run.
Yeah, and it was, listen, Kurt Warner's retirement was a bit of a surprise. He kind of shocked the franchise, and then it was, wow. The quarterback room after that was rough.
Yeah, it was.
So, and we know this is a quarterback-driven league, so when you can't get that position even close to right, you got no chance as a coach.
It feels like the Cardinals, for the first time ever, especially in the way of a homegrown quarterback, they figured it out. Kyler Murray, you stopped covering this team in 2018, as we mentioned. You had the Rosen era, the very short-lived Rosen era, if we can call it that. They pivot to Kyler Murray. Just from the outside looking in, and then now seeing where Kyler is with this organization, what's your feel on the Cardinals franchise QB?
I know you guys have talked about this on the show already, but I'm really curious to see how Kyler can thrive in a stable environment, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're not turning over coaches, where you actually have an offense where you can define it, where you know what's actually happening. Yeah. I don't know what they were doing under Cliff. It feels like he has the opportunity now. We all know what kind of athlete he is and the things that he's capable of doing on the field. But I really want to see what he can do in year 2 of Gannon's system. And just to have some stability and now some weapons as well. Yeah. This offense is intriguing.
Yeah, and it's looking, especially after the news today out of Minnesota, with the Vikings locking up Justin Jefferson on a huge deal. 4 years, is it $140 million? Is that what the deal was for Jefferson, with $110 million guaranteed? And when you just talk about the quarterback position, Kyler Murray, I mean, he was upwards of $160 million guaranteed, and that was a little bit of a longer deal, $230 million in total money. So, it eclipses Jefferson's deal by nearly $100 million. But still, it's crazy to see what that position is garnering. And it's made its case. We had this discussion, Craig, throughout the draft process about, taking a wide receiver 4th overall. Mm-hmm. Johnny and myself believe that it can be a premium position, especially if it's a high volume target wideout like MHJ projects to be. And then you see this funny money being thrown around. And now Marvin Harrison Jr. at $8 million a year for the next 4 seasons looks like an absolute steal if he can tap into any of that potential.
Well, when you're talking about the importance of quarterbacks, too, what are you giving them? What are you giving them to succeed? Aside from the stability that we just talked about with the coaching staff, what are the weapons that you're presenting them? It has to. This has become such a passing league, right?
Yeah.
It's not what it was when, I was watching games with my dad where it was, two run plays and then you're throwing on 3rd and long or 3rd and mid-range. It's a passing league. This is all about the passing game and quarterbacks, so you have to give them the weapons to work with. So I don't see the problem. I don't even understand the argument against picking a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr.
No, there isn't really, especially when he's the caliber of prospect that's put 2 seasons together like he did at Ohio State, who his dad is. Takes out all the heavy lifting as far as the homework that you have to do on a prospect. He just seems to be the real deal. We were able to catch up with Jonathan Gannon today. Damon, he gave us some insight as far as how Marv has been doing throughout OTAs that we hadn't heard too much from the Cardinals head coach, but here he is.
Yeah, he's extremely detailed. He does a lot of extra, probably too much. I'm going to be fighting him about that. And he's just like everybody else right now, kind of getting out there and making sure that he's going to make some mistakes and learning from his mistakes and, understanding the thought process from Drew, the quarterback perspective, where he needs to be, all that stuff. So, yeah, I liked how he's jumped in, and he's doing a good job. Because if we're spaced out with how many reps and the amount of workload that he gets, and then he goes and runs 100 routes on the weekend, he might be dragging today. You know what I mean? So now he doesn't drag, but I'm just talking about, I love extra work. You just got to be smart about it. You just got to have a routine about it, about what you're doing. You only get 1 cup a day. How you fill in your cup, you know what I mean? And if you're overflowing it somewhere, it's going to take from somewhere else, or you might not develop like we want you to develop. So he's doing a good job with his routine and his plan, what he's doing.
JG bringing out some props in his press conference. But, I mean, that's what you want to hear, right? Doesn't that just fire you up? That's exactly what you want to hear about your 4th overall selection. The coaching
than the alternative.
That's right.
Sure.
It's not the Robert Kimdichie or the Isaiah Simmons where, you have to ask yourself, do they love football? Where JG's basically saying, I've got to rein this guy in.
You brought up Kimdichie. Kimdichie was filling something else with water back in those days. Yeah, you're exactly right. And listen, some of this is hyperbole, right? You're going to get this sort of hype from the coach about players. But nothing that we've heard suggests that there are any issues on that front from Marvin Harrison Jr. So
yeah, I mean, people are trying to create them through just national outlets saying was his pre-draft routine, was it a red flag, or do the Cardinals have an MHJ problem just because he held out of the combine because he didn't go and participate in his pro day this year, even though participated last year with Ohio State when they had a lot more prospects on display, including a quarterback. I just think that's kind of trash, to be honest with you. When he put forth the 2 years of tape that he did, proved he was quarterback proof, and he couldn't really do anything beyond what he's done as far as taking care of his business off the field. I think the Cardinals have a really rock solid selection on their hands in Marvin Harrison Jr. And, making $35 million over the next 4 years with a team option for a 5th year. And you look at the crazy contract in Justin Jefferson, the Arizona Cardinals are in a really good spot with him and their offense going forward. Now, Gannon's personality a little bit on display there. It's not I'm 60 and sexy like you used to see from Bruce Arians, no risk it, no biscuit. But Jay-Z's got his own personality. What are your main takeaways so far from the Cardinals' second-year coach?
You always hope as a beat writer that your coach is going to give you insight and he's going to give you good quotes. Honestly, that's what it comes down to as a beat writer. Am I going to be able to talk to this guy and glean actual insight? And then is he going to be good to talk to? And so far, I love it. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's not Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians was his own animal, right? And Bruce had been around the league so long that Bruce was comfortable saying whatever came into his head.
Right. No filter at all.
No filter at all. But he's obviously a bright guy. He's an articulate guy. And I do think he provides a lot of insights. It's hard to, let's be honest. These are OTAs, right? These guys are running around with no pads. There's really not a lot that you're going to take away. Coaches certainly are forming their own evaluations, but there's not a lot to be taken away from these until they put on the pads. But I think he's doing a good job of providing us with content, so we appreciate that.
No doubt about it. It's not the coach that's gonna coach you hard and hug you harder. That was the thing about BA, but he's certainly got the respect of his team there. He's helped change the culture along with Monty Ossenfort that is desperately needed in 2022.
It's a word that gets thrown around a lot too, culture.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you this because you've obviously been around the team a lot. What's your sense? What is that culture? How do you define that culture under Monty and John?
I think actually, in its truest form, an organization that understands accountability, right? I mean, it's self-starters. It's very self-aware guys. You'll hear Gannon talk about that. You'll hear players at the podium talk about how they're self-aware and where they can take constructive criticism, when they need to work on their game, and where their strengths are. And I think, it was a word, as far as accountability, it was thrown around way too often with the previous regime, because I think it was just a word to them. They didn't understand what it meant to go in there and put in the work, pay attention to the details. And you're seeing that from the top to the bottom of this organization. And you see that Gannon and Ossenfort have their hands in everything. You caught this today. Jonathan Gannon was asked about players practicing in the heat, in the Arizona heat. It was brutal today. Yep. I mean, it's only going to get worse. But what did Gannon say? He had kind of an off-the-wall remark about playing in the heat.
Yeah.
He said that, like, it's going to, what did he say? He was going to raise your
something in the blood. I'm blanking on it now, too.
Is it the H2, the oxygen in your blood?
But see, we should have had this prep.
I apologize. But basically, he just came out of nowhere and says, well, did you know that? And he pointed to Darren Urban, the team's site writer.
Who wasn't paying attention.
He wasn't.
Darren
admitted that he was caught off guard by it as well. But, Gannon just, like, there's a method to, even if it seems like madness. Like, he's not just doing things to just throw crap at the wall and see
And there were
sticks.
several examples of that when he was talking, where, like, Jonathan Gannon knows sports science. It was so clear that he's diving into sports science and trying to get any kind of edge that he can for this team. Yeah. When you know things like that, we can't even recall what the hell he said.
Right.
Which, I don't know if it's platelets or if it was something else that, like, increases in your blood when you practice in the heat. Like, how did you know that? Clearly, he's studying these things. And sports science has become such a major part of professional sports. But there are coaches that embrace it, and there are coaches that are like, yeah, okay, tell me what I need to know. He's clearly reading up on all this stuff to get any kind of edge you can.
Right. And when you look at your main asset, your quarterback, and what you can do, if you can do anything possible to keep him on the field, those are the type of people you want him to be surrounded by. Like, remember, like, the Suns days, where, there was questions marks about, like, when they signed Grant Hill about his health, or Shaq's health, or Steve Nash had his back issue throughout his career. They had the best trainer in the league.
Aaron Nelson.
Nelson, absolutely. Yeah. And that, not only put those players in a position to stay on the field, or in the court in that case, and perform at a high level. And I think that Gannon absolutely understands that. If you look at his defense, if you look at what Philadelphia was able to accomplish in their run to the Super Bowl, they were one of the healthiest teams in the league. And if you think that that's just by luck, I think you'd be mistaken. And I think Gannon understands that they have to really treat their bodies like they are, and like the temples that they are. Yeah. These multi-million-dollar machines out there.
And such a critical component in football and all sports, right? Yeah. First of all, you mentioned Kyler Murray. You lose your starting quarterback. Sorry, the season's over.
Right.
Season's over for just about every team out there. So you need to focus on those sorts of things.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of these super chats. There's been an unbelievable competition going on, Craig, to be the first super chat.
My family in here? Yeah, my family donating money.
So I just want to say here, Bo, that the first one that it shows, I don't believe, is actually our first super chat here. Our first super chat comes from Jason.
All right.
Who comes in at third and fourth as well. But Jason, $2 to start us all off, said, PHNX is helping turn everyone's Monday around.
Thank you, Jason. We appreciate that. That's a beautiful way to win the competition for the day. We've got Plex jumping in with a $2 super chat. The JV slander, while he couldn't defend himself, shake my head. We didn't slander JV today.
I mean, not today. It was probably about yesterday's show, but we would say all of this to his face too.
That's true. We say it often in a text thread. It's a brutal place. And
I still want to know the sort of the quality of the burgers that he was grilling. I don't know. Did you guys explore that much?
I mean, Butcher Box, so it's good stuff.
I hope
it was Butcher Box. Okay, it wasn't, clearance at Fry's saying these are going to expire in 2 days, so you might want to buy
quite possible. That's why I didn't really want to dive into it. I didn't want to have to have him, kill himself even more.
Some people were asking, though, Craig, in the comments, if you can finish a steak, if that's something that you could handle as a man.
Oh, yeah. I can definitely finish a steak. Well, which kind of steak are we talking about?
I mean, Johnny, what was
ribeyes, I know, on the show.
Yeah, that was ribeye. It was a 14-ounce ribeye that Johnny was having trouble with in Indianapolis.
That was the infamous steak that he left about 50% of on his plate.
Yeah, I mean, he says he ate 80, but there was a good half of it.
Oh, I can put away a steak.
Like if I were to ask you your favorite cut of meat, you wouldn't come to me with just a burger.
Probably wouldn't say burger.
Right.
I do like burgers.
Yeah.
So I don't want to throw too much shade at Johnny because I do like burgers, but yeah, that's not what I come with first. I might, I know you guys talked about ribeyes. I'd probably come with a fillet or maybe, give me a good cut of prime rib too. So
can't beat a fillet. I know people want to say fillet doesn't have the flavor because it has less fat, but I'm all on that. And you can come after me. That's fine. I'm secure with it. Jason jumping back in, $10 super chat. Oh, $2 super chat. PHNX is helping turn everybody's Monday around. Then the $10 fits his rookie stats were 58 catches, 780 yards, 8 touchdowns. Knowing that number 11 became one of the greats. If MHJ has a similar rookie year, do you think Cards fans are okay with that? Thoughts and stats from Marvin Harrison Jr. in 2024. It's a great question, Jason. We've seen some, just projections from whether it's betting sites or friends over at BetMGM, or if you're looking at fantasy projections at ESPN.com, it's right over 1,000, just below 1,100 yards receiving, and just right around anywhere between 6 and 8 touchdowns. Where if he does that, I think it's a different era. I mean, as Craig was talking about.
And a different quarterback, too. Let's be honest. Who was Larry Fitzgerald's quarterback his rookie season?
That's right. Was it
Kurt
McCown?
Warner was not here yet, so yeah. So it's a little bit different, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just the opportunities are going to be there. I really think it's going to be quality over quantity for MHJ, where you're not going to see the gaudy target opportunities because of just what they want to do as far as running the football, and then also the other weapons that they have in this passing attack from Trey McBride to Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch. So I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have an opportunity to catch anywhere from 6 to 8 targets a game, and he's going to have some space to do so because of what they like to do and their offensive approach. Let's keep it going though with these super chats.
I think those touchdowns look good.
Yeah,
that looks like a good touchdown number, but I definitely think that we should be shooting for more yards and receptions there. I don't know if you disagree with that.
No, I mean when you especially in a 17-game schedule, to get to 1,000, I think you just need about just under 60 yards per game. So
yeah, that's highly doable.
Yeah, that's absolutely doable.
Wasn't Michael Wilson kind of on a pace similar to 700 yards when he was he was good, but he wasn't
on a pace for 900.
Yeah, he
dealt with injuries.
I would like Marv to be better than that. Just given where we drafted him, what he's supposed to be like. And I love Michael Wilson. He's a great player, but we want Marv to be that star. So I definitely think over 1,000 is what we should be asking for.
Yeah. I don't think that's unrealistic, especially, Jefferson, Jamar Chase, what they've done lately, guys that have just come into the league from the collegiate level, and it just immediately translates, not perfectly. Like I'm sure there's going to be games where, really good cornerback is going to be up to the task to, take on the name, the son of Marvin Harrison, or, the guy that didn't work out during the pre-draft process and wants to kind of make a name for himself, right? And I think Harrison Jr. is going to be getting the best shot from a lot of these opposing corners. Ben Cork, $2 super chat. Clancy needs to be jailed, calling Yelda Jelty. He did do that when he joined us a couple days ago. That's why he's never going to be asked back to this program. How dare he? No, my good friend Alex Clancy. I don't know what the hell he was doing. Why he thinks that our favorite Denmark center, our desert Viking, Yelda Froholt, his name is Jelty. I mean, for somebody who covers hockey for as long as he did, that's egregious.
Trust me, we can get into pronunciations of hockey names.
Have you ever had a bad pronunciation?
Oh, yeah, I butchered a couple. The worst part with all the Europeans that are in the NHL is the team itself will tell you, here's the pronunciation. Yeah. Then you go to the play, and they're like, no, that's not it. It doesn't sound anything like that. So
you go up there all kind of full of confidence, and you call them by name, and they say, nope. Yeah, that ain't it. That ain't it. I'll tell you what is it. Chicken and Pickle. We had a great time out there. We had a team outing at Chicken Pickle out there by the stadium in Glendale. Chicken Pickle. That's all you need to know about it. I mean, it's great fried chicken, delicious chicken, and pickleball. Plus, they've got great table games out there, indoor, outdoor entertainment. The complex includes casual, chef-driven restaurant and sports bar that's unbelievable and boasts the best pickleball courts in AZ, and I don't disagree with that. We had a great time out there.
Who came out on top, by the way?
I don't want to talk about that. No. Damon, we had a good little effort, right? Who did? Was it Jacob and Max? But word on the street is that they were dodging a lot of the competition out there.
Yeah, I mean, me and you, Bo, once we became a kind of a duo, we were really starting to cook, I thought. Yeah. At least that was from my perspective. Not sure we lost when but I got him out of the yips, didn't I? Didn't I, Bo?
I did have a bit of. I look like Eric. John Skelton out there trying to throw a pass.
No, well, I don't know. Eric serving. Is talking a lot for someone who lost to me and you, Bo.
Yeah, they called it on time. It was unofficial. Yeah, he sounds like Kennedy Carter right now for the Chicago Sky. It just seems like he's a little jealous, and I understand that. If you want to make people jealous, get out there to Chicken and Pickle right now. Take advantage of their Speedy 7 lunch that gives you a great CMP taste. Express Track every Monday through Friday, 11 to 3. Dine in for Speedy 7 lunch. Choose from 7 menu items and drink for just $12.99. It's tough to beat that out there in Glendale. We love it. Also, you can test your knowledge on our weekly trivia night, Tuesdays at 7 p.m., hosted by Geeks Who Drink. They sound cool. I'm in for that. As long as they're not IPA guys, right? That's one thing I do know about our new beat reporter.
Yeah, somebody followed me today, and right in his bio, it was IPA drinking. I was like, okay, we're gonna have problems here. We're gonna have to talk this out.
It's crazy that's bio-worthy.
Yeah, well,
that's who
people are passionate about what they're passionate about. I'm not passionate about IPAs.
I mean, look, craft beer, I get it. Brewing at home, that's fun, but like this is who I am as a person.
Yeah,
I don't know. But I'm gonna be careful, Damon, because I've given my thoughts on myself wearing a jersey, and people want to just crush me anytime there's any adult wearing a jersey, and that's fine. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I do want to tell people also about our friends over at Circle K. Become a member of the Inner Circle. You can start saving at the pump immediately. How about 25 cents per gallon off your first 5 fill-ups? That's right. And here's the deal of the season. When you are filling up that car, you just go into any Circle K and you can save just 79 cents on any Polar Pop or any Froster. I saw Lindsey Smith had a Polar Pop in here from PHNX Suns. I was big time jealous on that. It looked really refreshing after roasting out there at Cardinals OTAs today.
It's going to get worse.
Bro. Yeah. And once you become a free member of the Inner Circle, you can save 3 cents per gallon. You reach another echelon, you can save 5 cents before you know it. All you have to do is sign up and become a member of the Inner Circle right now. Download the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. Participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details. So, Craig, wanted to get more into what you want your coverage to be. We are so honored that you're going to be able to be on this beat with us.
Wow, he used the word honored.
I know. I believe that.
Listen, I pointed out a lot of this in the story that I wrote today that you can read on gophnx.com. I was on the NHL beat for a very long time, and you develop a lot of sources, a lot of knowledge, a deep history of the team, right? I don't have that with the Cardinals. Now, I have I know some of the history that we just talked about, but you got to come in, first of all, you got to learn personnel all over again. You've got to learn schemes, everything that they're doing. I'm learning from you guys by binge watching this show, literally. Yeah, you tell me if that's a good idea or not. But beyond that, like to me, being a beat writer is telling deeper stories, not just what we're hearing in the news conferences, going outside, talking to agents, talking to family members, talking to external sources, and trying to paint deeper pictures of the players, the coaches, the executives. And sometimes it's more issue pieces. Maybe it's more NFL focused than it is simply on the Cardinals with a tie to the Cardinals. So I want to do a lot of that. I will tell you this, that whatever I'm doing or saying is going to be based in deep reporting, because I really believe in that as a beat writer. I think that's the bedrock of any information that you put out there. It better be grounded in really good reporting and not just, here's what I think about something, some off-the-wall thought.
We'll give you that.
Yeah. I don't think you guys do, because I know how much time you're putting in on this.
Right.
But the other thing that I want to point out, and you guys are already doing this, you can see the community that's here. Really, as I've watched sports media have evolved, I've really learned how important it is to embed yourself in a community and be responsive to a community, talk to a community, be just in conversations like we are right now with all these people. So part of that is me being active in the Discord. Part of me is doing mail bags, which I'll do on a monthly basis. Of course, I did that with the Coyotes as well. There's going to be a while before I can actually answer a lot of your questions. Sure. I might turn to Bo to answer those questions. But the other thing that I want from you is tell me what you want from this beat. What are we lacking? What are the the areas that you'd like to see covered more. I want to be responsive to the community because we don't always know best. I said this in the column today. I think sometimes with the old guard of journalism, there's a little bit of this ivory tower mentality. I know how to do a beat. Nobody gets to tell me how to do a beat.
Yeah.
It evolves. Everything evolves. The audience evolves. Their tastes evolve. So don't be afraid to tell me, hey, you know what? I really don't like what you're doing with this particular angle of your beat coverage. This actually sucked. I don't want to see this anymore. I may not agree with you all the time.
Yeah.
I may decide that some of the things that I do are things that I still need to do. But I do want to hear your ideas. There might be some really good ideas out there that I haven't even thought of. So more than anything, I just want you to know that I'm going to be open to those ideas.
I think as a Cardinals fan, as this team grows and trends in the right direction for the first time in a long time, that's something that they've been craving, right? I mean, you're going to get in-depth, thorough reporting, and you're going to work in concert with the Cardinals community about what they want to hear about.
Yeah.
And it's not going to just, as you mentioned, kind of up in that ivory tower. And it's like, I know better. This is what you want to listen to. This is what you want to watch.
You will read what I give you.
Yeah, and you'll like it. It's going to be way more. It's not going to be, hey, move the chains with a game story or an injury report. It's going to be who these players are.
On game stories.
we did with
why does anyone write them anymore? I have no idea.
Absolutely. And it's, so that's what you're going to get. And I think that as far as the Cardinals go, it's been lacking. There hasn't been an opportunity for this. So to get one of the best writers in our market to take over and lead the charge on that, we're very fortunate for that, and we're excited about it.
The other thing that I've noticed, that you asked me for takeaways, and very early on, again, I've literally been to 3 workouts, so I don't have a lot of takeaways yet, and I want to keep stressing that it's going to be a slow climb for me here. I'm not going to be an expert or an authority on the Cardinals for a while. Hopefully I'll get there at some point. But one of the takeaways that I've had very early on, and again, beat writers are pretty simple people in the end. We hope for a couple things. One is, do we have a locker room of really good quotes? Guys who provide. There's so many good quotes already. Like the entire offensive line is incredible. Yeah. All the guys that I've heard, a bunch of the rookies, surprisingly, you never know what you're going to get with a rookie. They can often be tight-lipped, speak in cliches, be very nervous. There's been a lot of really well-spoken guys on this team. So it makes me think, wow, there could be a lot of stories that I can mine from covering this beat.
I completely agree. I think just the offensive line alone, and Gannon told us himself, like, his spirit animal is an offensive lineman. You can see why that is. They're just such likable guys. And with Paris Johnson Jr. and what he does, how he's philanthropic, how he's a leader already in his second year, and how he's just so extremely talented already, just a specimen out there on the playing field. There's so much you can learn about him. And I think Darius Robinson on the defensive side of the football, just a little we've known about him, he's very similar. He's kind of the counterpart to Paris. So, and you're seeing just throughout every new player that comes, whether it's a draft pick or whether it's a free agent addition, like they all have some similarities to just they're very well spoken. They've got leadership qualities. It's a different brand of player now in the desert for the Cardinals, and that's what should get you excited about this rebuild.
Yeah, and listen, part of being a beat writer is having to cover the hard stories, whether it's scandal or something, a poor performance, and I'll be doing all that. I definitely have to do all that, but my experience, and I think you probably agree from your time covering whatever level of sports, there's so many good stories and there's so many good people around these teams that we cover. And I had that in my last experience with the Cardinals, and I feel like it's going to happen again, getting just a taste of these guys. There's so many good people and good stories worth covering. That's what I'm going to try. I'm going to try and connect you to these players, to these coaches, to these managers a little better than maybe you've had in the past.
Can't wait for it. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at Craig S. Morgan. He's going to have all the insight coming out of Cards. Mandatory minicamp next week. We're actually going to be out there again this week on Wednesday, just giving you the sights and the sounds. And now you can read about it, this Cardinals organization going forward at gophnx.com. Don't delay. Become a diehard today. Let's get back into these super chats, Damon, real quick. About St. S-Bag, Kyler for 4,000 yards? It's a good question.
I thought you weren't afraid to say it.
I'm trying to class it up for Craig.
I gotcha.
All right, fine. Saint Shitbag. There he is. In the Shitbag Mafia.
It's not like I didn't hear it from PD on my show. So
4,000 yards for Kyler Murray. It would be a first for him. It's just a matter if he stays healthy or not. So I think it's absolutely doable with the scheme, with the talent that's around him, I think absolutely 4,000 for Kyler Murray, but it's just going to come down to if he can stay healthy. Topic 64, friend of the show, $4.99. Thank you, my guy. Our defense will have a lot of takeaways this year. 100%. You hope so. If the defense can do any better as far as getting off the field in any way, whether it's forcing a punt or whether it's getting some takeaways, more picks, maybe more forced fumbles, it would just bode well for this offense that I think is poised to have continuous success from when Kyler returned.
Yeah, aside from Kyler, is that your biggest question?
Yeah.
Is it, I mean, that's maybe the difference between playoffs and not making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, can they get enough production from that rebuilt defensive front? Like you heard from BJ Ojolari today, and let me tell you, BJ Ojolari, he looks good. He looks big.
Yeah.
What did he say? He added somewhere between 8 to 10 pounds of muscle this offseason. He feels healthier than he was coming off an unknown knee procedure at this time last year. So the second-year player really seems like he's in a good spot to make a jump in year 2. Ryan, $2 super chat. JV off 999 training. He might be. I hope so. We're going to do, Craig, I don't know if you know this, we're going to do the 9 hot dogs, 9 beers in 9 innings at a Diamondbacks game coming up. And Johnny, like he's already admitted he's not going to complete it. Yeah, our sweet Johnny Venerable.
How big are these beers?
We were talking about doing the value size at the Diamondbacks games because the other beers you can get are all tall boys, that's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to be a tank. So the value beers, from a price standpoint, makes more sense, and I think it's about a can size.
So 12 ounces.
That's a challenge.
Yeah. I think it's 10 to 12 ounces.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 to 12.
But Johnny knows that, and he's already said, I'm good for 4 or 5, which is...
You can't even put away a steak.
No.
So I'm concerned. I'm concerned about
I don't
Johnny.
know but now you have to decide, like, what are you more concerned about? The beers consumed or the hot dogs consumed?
You should be concerned about Johnny. He has way more confidence than he should about this, doesn't he, Bo?
Yeah.
I mean, he's trying to like bend the rules to see like how many will let him get throughout a 9-inning game instead of doing it each inning like you're supposed to.
So he wants to binge early on.
He's like, I think I can get like 4.
Yeah.
And you're like, over the course of 9 innings, like that's not very impressive.
That's not even doing the 999 challenge.
It's not.
I think once you fall behind, unless
he's getting 2 innings, I'm telling you, he might not even get 2.
He might get through half a dog.
I think it I'll tell you, Bo, it's going to be a battle.
No confidence in Johnny at all.
It's going to be a battle.
I think Johnny can do 4, but
with his confidence being as high as, hey, I think I'll check out at 4 or 5. Like that's not the name of the game. It's 999. So
we already know that his eyes are bigger than his stomach.
Yeah.
So when he says I'm going to get 4, that makes me think you're going to get 2.
Yeah.
That's just my thought process, at least.
Speaking of the 999 challenge, our guy, a hot dog guy, $4.99. What does James Conner need to do to get into the Ring of Honor? Is it possible given his limited time with us and poor overall team performance? That's a great question. James Conner, as far as running backs go, the best running back this organization has had since moving to the desert. You have to go back to Otis Anderson and what he was able to accomplish with the Cardinals organization. But it is an interesting point about the lack of team success. Like you see the big time touchdown numbers from James, you see the rushing and receiving yards, pretty impressive. But Ring of Honor, 19 members already there, still have Fitz to go. So have a couple other big names probably in front of when James Conner could potentially go. I don't know if he's a Ring of Honor, but he's in the ring of
climb, right?
Yeah, he's in the ring of very good.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's admirable, isn't it?
I don't know if they have one of those, but
no, they don't. You don't get a bust.
Longevity matters. There are a lot of factors that go into this. Right?
I mean, he'll be remembered back as very fondly by this fans. In this, of course, he stuck around through some very thin years, and he was part of the change. Gannon calls him the blueprint as far as what he would point to a young player to follow in order to get themselves into a position to be successful in this league. So I think that would mean more probably to a guy like James anyway than having his name up at State Farm Stadium somewhere.
Fair.
Yeah. I do want to play. Let's get some highlights up from training camp, and then we'll get into.
These are all via Bo, by the way.
That's right. This is
you don't want to see my highlights.
You see some shaky footage. It's
if
from me.
It ever looks awful, grainy, and like it was filmed on a potato, it was Craig's. We all know that.
Where did the potato thing come from, by the way? Because that's stuck.
There's our guy.
I don't know. I feel like Mac came up with that.
We got some Kyler to Marvin Harrison Jr. Here's a quick pitch and catch here from MHJ. You'll see it again, kind of on a line here. That's probably the hardest I've seen Kyler toss it to MHJ. Here's Zaven. This is every training camp. Zaven Collins is working with Rodriguez, their pass rush outside linebackers coach, each and every OTAs during the open portion. And he's still working on that technique. He's still trying to get himself in a position where I think he can just go out there and react, Craig. And, Zaven's away from the rest of his position group, but it's, I think, for a good cause. They are doing everything within their power, to get them to speed.
I should point out, by the way, that video was all shot from the shade of a tree. That's where Bo and I stand for most of the day and complain about the heat out there. There used to be a better tree, by the way. I don't know. Were you around for the tree?
No.
That used to be by the
I didn't. It was
the all tree. The interviews. Yeah, there was a tree where the coach used to do all the interviews after practice, and then they chopped it down apparently because the PA needed to have cameras that could see the entire field to make sure they weren't breaking any rules. That's at least the story that we got. So
was that on the?
It was on the opposite side, like right next to the building.
The northwest side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I do remember that.
But we find enough shade out there. If we don't like it, there were days I remember being out there and when we had to stand in between two fields before they put the bubble in, and they're literally light towers, and you'd see reporters literally standing in the shadow of the light tower just to find some shade. It was crazy.
Just kind of like sucking on the grass, just trying to get any kind of
anything
hydration. We have one thing before we get to Max Chadwick from Pro Football Focus, who joined us about this exciting Cardinals team. Budda Baker was asked about his future in the desert, and is he concerned about kind of being on the final year of his contract, a position that Budda Baker has never been in. Like, he never got this far down the line as far as not having, his future kind of paved out for him. He signed his big extension at this point in his first contract, and now we've got Budda Baker going into the final year of that deal, and this is what Budda Baker had to say.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, my mindset is the same each and every year. A lot of people think about the money. A lot of, some players might think, contract year, I got to do extra. I got to do this. I treat every single year like a contract year. For me, I love this game. I play it at a high level each and every week because of the work I put in each and every week. And for me, I'm an honest believer in just controlling what I can control and do my job. At the end of the day, everything else will take care of itself. And, that's my main goal, of course, this year, like it is every year. Continue to do my job at a high level, continue to play high football, elite football, and, when the ball comes my way, get it out the sky. When it doesn't, run to the ball. And, that's what I am, A to Z, run to the ball. So everything else can take care of itself. I let my agent handle all that other stuff. But when it comes to football, when it comes to when I step on that football field, you guys will all know, and you'll all see exactly what you see each and every year.
I think in order to get a big-time extension, or just an extension that I think Budda would be excited about and his camp would like, he's going to have to do what he said in that video there, is take the football away. Yeah. There was no forced fumbles last year. There was no interceptions. I'm sure offenses had the luxury of staying away from his side of the field last year.
Health issues too, right? So
yeah, he had the hamstring that he admitted today that he had torn it. He tore his hamstring.
Yeah.
He had the shortest stint you can have on the IR, and said he never went full 100% the rest of the season. He played 80 to 90% on that hammy. So Budda Baker, I think, for his benefit and for the Cardinals' benefit, playing in a career year, he could land himself another big contract. As far as the organization's philosophy and how they, view the safety position, he's really going to have to put up some gaudy numbers in order for them to.
Yeah, I think that's fair at this point in his career.
So, but Budda Baker, how do you not root for a guy like that? He's out there. He's putting on legendary performances on Sundays, practice. He's leaning on and off the field. He's a great locker room guy. You can tell there's so much respect from the front office, the coaching staff, and the players. It's just, he did say, like, hey, I've made it. This is my 4th time. I made it through. Mm-hmm. It's just at this point in your career, sometimes the NFL, that's where the business side flexes. It rears its ugly head.
It doesn't matter what you've done.
Right. It's what are you going to do for us? And, they've got potential. He spoke very highly of Daedrin Rabbit, Taylor Demerson, who plays the safety position. Could he be an in-house successor at some point for Budda? We love what we've seen from Jalen Thompson. He's under contract still. So a lot of different directions the Cardinals can go. And look, they're going to have money to spend next year. But let's, we continue the focus on this year where the Cardinals are in a really good spot with, 25 first and second year players, basically half their roster under his new coaching regime, and Kyler Murray healthy, coming back and poised for a big season. So, hearing from Budda and that he's in a better spot, at least than where he was last year, where he was in a holdout and he requested a trade. I think he's at least, Craig, and I don't know if you weren't here for this when Peterson had done his trade request. There is a difference though, big time difference as far as where P2 went from then forward and where Budda has gone since his trade request.
Yeah, well, are you talking about in the way he approached it, or just what he was doing on the field? Patrick Peterson didn't necessarily approach it the best way either, right? So
as soon as things got tough, as far as, once the B8 year was over and Wilkes was in there, they were losing football games. Peterson said he wanted out, by October, by mid-October. Yeah. And then never really he tried at the Waste Management Open, like the following offseason, to say, like, hey, I want to be a Cardinal the rest of my career, but
yeah, it was over by then.
Yeah, it felt like it was over at that point. Played out the rest of his deal, and then the rest is history. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you're following Craig on Twitter, following the show at PHNX_Cardinals. Our friends over at Desert Financial are taking care of our guy Johnny while he's on vacation. He doesn't have to think twice as far as security of using his debit card abroad. Desert Financial is the official credit union of the Arizona Cardinals. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicated to creating exceptional experiences and giving back to the community, providing financial solutions that make lives better. And if you're a fan of the Cardinals, why not rep them with the Arizona Cardinals Desert Financial Team Debit Card? Show your team spirit. Open up that free checking account today online and get that Arizona Cardinals Visa Debit Card. Go to desertfinancial.com/Cardinals to get started today. And once you have, your Desert Financial account in good standing, then take some of that money and maybe throw it to our friends over at BetMGM. We love BetMGM. It's the #1 gambling app. It's our gambling partner here at PHNX Sports. We love BetMGM, and they've got a great $1,500 offer for you to cash in on. They've got the Grand Slam jackpot promotion. Damon, for whatever reason, didn't tell our great listeners on Friday that Christian Walker was going to hit a granny on Saturday.
Guys.
How dare you? You're a D-backs expert.
I know. I that's on me. I should be able to predict things like that. But how nice of a payout would that have been? Huh?
That would have been huge. Well, this is what it would be. If you get in on the weekly bet and promotion, you place $10 or more on a wager that a player is going to hit a home run every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If a player hits a Grand Slam on that day, they can win up to $50,000 in daily prize or a share of the prize with every winning bettor. So if Damon, myself, Craig, we put that bet in, we split it 3 ways. And we're looking pretty smart at that point. But unfortunately, Damon left us hanging. Don't let yourself be left hanging any longer. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android. Visit BetMGM.com. Sign up, deposit at least $10 in your BetMGM Sportsbook account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back bonus bets. Even if your bet loses, don't miss out on it any longer. Check it out. Check out the show notes for more details. Now listen to our guy Shane Diefenbach talk about it in the disclaimer.
Bonus bets expire in 7 days. One new customer offer only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, North Carolina, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
With the excitement surrounding this Arizona Cardinals team and 12 new players, 15 new players if you include the undrafted rookie free agents for this Cardinals organization, we had to get some insight from our guy from Pro Football Focus. Glad to get him back here on the show, Max Chadwick. Make sure you're following along at Max Chadwick CFB from Pro Football Focus. Max, how we doing, my man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on again.
So, yeah, anytime, man. As far as this Cardinals organization goes, the infusion of talent, it's undeniable. Over the last 2 years, they had 13 first-year players by the end of last season, and then 12 draft picks this year, and then the undrafted rookie guys. Outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., we'll take the chalk off the board. But who are you most excited about out of this Cardinals rookie class going into this season?
Oh, good question. I think this Cardinals class they had this year was pretty good. Obviously, Darius Robinson, another first-round pick. I thought he was a little overdrafted in my opinion, but I still didn't hate that pick. Trey Benson was the guy that I actually was lucky enough to interview a couple of years ago. Such a cool story, man. This is a guy who played initially at Oregon, and at Oregon he suffered a devastating knee injury, like one that he never even thought he could come back from, honestly. And he kind of lost a lot of confidence. Then he transferred to Florida State, and he just gained his confidence with every carry he got. And he turned out to be one of the best running backs in the country, one of the best running backs in the NFL draft. And I think eventually when James Conner is done, he will be the number one running back for the Arizona Cardinals as well. So, I think Trey Benson is definitely not only a great story, but I also thought he was one of the best, if not the best, running back in the entire draft. So I think Arizona did a great job selecting him.
I'm glad you picked Benson because it is just intriguing just how they're going to maybe do the work share. And I don't envision it being a work share. I mean, after James Conner's, most productive season of his career. But what do we know about James Conner, Max, is he inevitably misses time each and every year. He even missed 4 games last year. So Trey Benson, what do you view him as far as his production in year one? What should Cardinals fans and maybe even fantasy football players expect from Benson?
Yeah, I think he's going to make an impact, right? I'm obviously not going to be the top guy with James Conner there, but I do think he's going to make an impact. I think he's just something that I love about him that I think will get him on the field early, and why ultimately he was selected by the Cardinals and why he was selected so highly is that he's an unbelievable tackle breaker. And I think that's one of the most important things when you're scouting running backs in today's day and age is how well do you break tackles, right? Because so much of running back production is based off how the offensive line blocks for you, which really doesn't really tell you how good a running back actually is. But if you're going one-on-one with the defender and the defender's not tackling you, that shows how good a running back is in a lot of ways. So Trey Benson was one of the best tackle breakers in PFF system since we started doing this in 2014 for college football. So he truly is a special tackle breaker. I believe he's like the 100th percentile of tackle breakers that we've seen over the last decade or so. He is truly really up there with the best of them. So I think he's going to be able to get on the field pretty quickly. There's still some work to be done with his vision and getting a little bit more north-south instead of, he tries to get to the sideline a little bit too much sometimes. But I think he is a athletic freak who's already an excellent tackle breaker, has some receiving chops out of the backfield too. There's a lot to work with there with Trey Benson.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Kind of a James Conner clone in that way. When you look at James Conner, what he was able to do last year, his yards after contact, they were up there in the tops of the league. And the offensive line, they want to do a better job and obviously not getting their running back hit too early, but they appreciated that from James as well. This is a run first offense. It's really odd because they were coming from, the Cliff Kingsbury experiment that was for 4 seasons, and they implement this run heavy scheme where it's James Conner. They've got Trey McBride, who's a great pass catching tight end, but he obviously can get the job done as a run blocker, decent O-line. And then they bring in Tip Ryman from Illinois. But you look at this run-first scheme, what can it do for Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. in this passing attack?
Oh, it takes so much pressure off them, right? Because I think, obviously, everyone's going to be talking about that connection next year, and that's going to be probably the number one source of offense for Arizona next year is, Kyler Murray going number 18, going to Marvin Harrison Jr. You saw how hyped he was after they selected Marvin Harrison Jr. because he knew that for the first time really since DeAndre Hopkins, he has an alpha number 1 receiver. And maybe a once-in-a-generation type prospect in Marvin Harrison Jr. too. So, but yeah, if you have a great running game, though, that takes a lot of pressure off. And all of a sudden, defenses can't just play, 7 guys deep or anything like that, or 8 guys deep even. They have to commit some more guys to the box. So Trey Benson or James Conner can take some of the pressure off Kyler Murray and have more guys play in the box, and Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. can go over the top on them too. So, I think a run game is really important in order to help out the passing game and make sure play action is one of the most analytically best things you could do in football right now. Yeah, definitely. I think run game is really important in order to make sure you're balanced as an offense.
I always like to get kind of the sense from our guests, because we get more of a national perspective here on Kyler Murray and where you believe he is right now in the landscape of NFL quarterbacks. What's your belief? Where is Kyler Murray going into for the first time in a long time healthy into a season which feels like he has infrastructure, play calling wise, and just personnel wise to have a big year?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I've seen some rankings where he's outside the top 20, and I don't agree with that at all. I really do think Kyler Murray is a really good quarterback, and I still think he could be a top 10 to 15 quarterback in the NFL, honestly. And I think right now he's probably in that 15-ish range. I would say right now there's just so many good quarterbacks in today's day and age of NFL. But I still think, like, once he comes back healthy and shows that he is still who he was before, we could talk about him as being a top 10 quarterback, top 10, 12 quarterback in the NFL, like we were talking about before he went down with the injury. So staying on the field is critical for him. It's been kind of an issue for him throughout his career. But when he's on the field, there's no denying that he is a franchise quarterback, which is why Arizona paid him all that money. So, yeah, I still think Kyler Murray when he's on the field, he's a top 10-ish quarterback. The problem is staying on the field, which is why he's more on the top 20 range, I would probably say right now.
What's maybe a quarterback hot take that you would say he's better than, that you would probably get crushed on the Twitter streets for saying?
Oh, man. I'm trying to think who would man, I'm trying to think right now that who would get crushed. Who would I get crushed for saying? I would take Kyler Murray over Jared Goff, probably. Okay. I think that's maybe one that not a lot of people would agree with right now, considering how good the Lions have been. But I think that infrastructure in Detroit is so good. Kyler really hasn't had that recently, and he's still been basically just as good, if not better, again, when he's on the field. So I would say that's one of them probably. I think, again, I mean, infrastructure, you got to look at it. I think Tua Tagovailoa's had an easier ecosystem to deal with than Kyler Murray. I'd probably, if you're asking me to start a team, I'd probably say Kyler Murray over him. So, yeah, I think some guys like that I think some people might not agree with. Maybe even like Brock Purdy, honestly, too. I'd probably rather take Kyler Murray than Brock Purdy. There's a few guys where I'm like, I think, got to look at the situation these guys are in too, rather than just how good they're performing.
Sure.
And I think Kyler Murray, like I said, has not been in a great situation until now, really. And I still think there's work to be done, obviously. But I think Kyler Murray is quickly becoming one of the more underrated quarterbacks we have in this league.
A lot of pressure on Kyler in that offense to put up points, a defense that's going to pretty much change out half of its personnel, at least starting personnel, and gave up the second most points in the NFL last year. Max, when you look at the additions, whether it's through free agency, beefed up the defensive line, Justin Jones, Bilal Nichols, and then what they added through the draft. You mentioned Darius Robinson, Max Melton, the corner out of Rutgers, Elijah Jones, guy out of BC. Who intrigues you the most that they're adding to this defense, and that can be maybe a bit of a game changer that they lacked last season?
Yeah, I think you're hoping it's Darius Robinson. Again, I would have taken him more in the second round range, so I thought it was a little bit of a reach in the first round for them. But they needed help on the defensive line, so at least understandable why they would attack that position with their second first round pick. But you're hoping it's him. I think Bilal Nichols is a good signing. I think he's an underrated player for them. He's probably gonna be up their nose tackle for them in that defense this year. So that he's solid. I think Max Melton, another guy that I was, okay on. Like I thought it was an okay pick by them, but he is going to be one of the starting outside corners probably for Arizona this year. So you're hoping that he could, immediately contribute as a rookie. Those are a few of the guys I think the newcomers that are going to be relied on to be starters probably for this defense next year.
You're already deep in the weeds as far as 2025 draft coverage. We talked a little bit about it with you the last time you joined us here on PHNX Cardinals, but it felt like the pendulum kind of sways back to the defensive side of the football from an offensive heavy draft. If things work out for this Cardinals organization, they don't have an extra first round pick like they did this past draft, and hopefully they're picking somewhere in the late teens, early 20s. If they're looking to supplement that pass rush, and I know it's way early, but who are you looking at maybe once the college football season kicks off that could fill that role?
Yeah, so if you're looking in the late teens and early 20s, obviously takes away a lot of the top guys in this draft. So like a guy like James Pierce Jr., the Tennessee edge, who we have as number one overall player, probably not going to be available at that point. But if you're looking for a guy maybe later, I think a guy like and I think he should be a top 10 pick, but I've seen so many big boards where he's not. So consensus wise, Deion Walker is one of the freakiest players I've ever seen. He's a defensive tackle from Kentucky. For anyone who doesn't know, he's 6'6", 350 pounds. And usually you hear that and you go, okay, this guy's a run stuffer. He does nothing as a pass rusher.
Right.
He led the nation in pressures last year as a true sophomore in the SEC at D tackle. So he's an unbelievable pass rusher. He's actually a great run defender too. So he does both. He's a freaky athlete, obviously at that size. In fact, I actually interviewed him a few weeks ago, and I asked him, I was like, listen, Deion, look, you're a freak athlete, man. When you go to the combine, whenever that is, what is the event that you're just going to wow people at? And he goes, oh, dude, definitely the 40-yard dash. And I was like, all right, you got to tell me a time now. Like, what are we talking? Like, what kind of time we're talking here? And for a 350-pound man, I was thinking, okay, like a 5'1" would be unbelievable for a 350-pound man.
Right.
This dude says 4'6". I was like, what? I was like, Deion, Deion, you're lying, right? He's like, no, I'm going to run a 4'6". I'm like, Deion, you're 350 pounds, right? He's like, yeah, I know. I was like, I ran like a 4'8" last year, so I'm hoping I could do a 4'6" when I get, like, dude, if he runs a 4'6", that's basically, for anyone trying to equate that to like a wide receiver time, it's like, to me, it's like a wide receiver running like a 4 flat or a 3.9 maybe. Like, so that guy's a freak, man. And if he does run a 4'6" at the combine, he's definitely going to go a lot higher than top 20 where you're hoping to be picking next year. But yeah, he's a guy that I'll definitely look at it in terms of interior defensive line. Jack Sawyer from Ohio State's another guy I really like. He's a really all around really good player. So I think he's another guy that could be in the late teens, early 20s. It's a great year next year to need defensive line help, whether it be at edge or interior defensive line. It's a really good class next year.
Yeah, and when you think about Gannon, when he was the DC in Philly, they never turned their nose up at supplementing that defensive line. I mean, even though they had Fletcher Cox and they drafted Jordan Davis, they went and signed Ndamukong Suh, and it was a rotation that was 5 deep. And Gannon says he likes to run 5 deep. You add a kid like that from Kentucky to pair with Darius Robinson and Justin Jones or Bilal Nichols. I mean, that's a pretty stout rotation, much like what he had in Philadelphia during that Super Bowl run.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think he's definitely a guy to look out for. The last other guy I wanted to bring up was Nick Scorton from Texas A&M, transfers over from Purdue. I think he's a top 10 player in the class. Again, consensus-wise, he's ranked number 21 on the consensus board right now. So chance he could be available there. Obviously, it's extremely early for any consensus talk. But, I think he's the second best edge in the draft, in my opinion. I think he's a terrific pass rusher, really good run defender, powerful edge. He's like 265 pounds, but he also like really good finesse player too. He has a spin move that's disgusting. Nick Scorton, now at Texas A&M, transferring over from Purdue. I think he's another guy to watch out for in next year's draft, an edge defender if you want an edge to watch out for.
I don't know why we're fooling ourselves and our audience. I mean, the Cardinals have gone Ohio State back-to-back seasons. They see that's NFL factory, the guy Jack Sawyer. It's probably going to be the pick.
It's probably Jack Sawyer, yeah. Or JT Tuimoloau too, his teammate. That is another guy that a lot of people were talking about for first round. So it could be him, Tyleik Williams, another D tackle that's getting first round hype. It's like 3 first round potential Ohio State D linemen next year. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities for Arizona to continue that trend next year.
Yeah, and it's not a bad trend to follow. Also, a great person to follow is Max Chadwick on Twitter. Follow him while you can, because once College Football 25 drops, the man's going to be on a milk carton. People are going to be asking his whereabouts. He's just going to be locked into that fantastic video game that we can't wait drops. Max, always tremendous insight. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
Of course. Thanks, guys.
Great stuff from our guy, Max Chadwick. It was also great, Damon Dawg, to catch up with the newest member of the PHNX Cardinals beat, our guy, Craig Morgan, bringing close to 30 years experience to our beat. It's going to take our writing content to the moon. So excited about that. So many things that we got into today, the conversation. If you missed any of it, of course, catch up wherever you find podcasts or rewind the show. Watch the front of it on this YouTube broadcast. Make sure you hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, check out Becoming a Diehard. Pays off immediately. You get that free shirt pretty much cuts that fee in half. It's unbelievable. You get exclusive access to the member Discord where the chat continues, much like here on the live show. Don't miss out on that. We got great stuff headed your way tomorrow. Our guy BG Britton Golden's going to join us live and in studio. We're going to get his insights on Marvin Harrison Jr. and some of the upgrades that the Arizona Cardinals have done on this roster. And Johnny Venerable will return to the program shortly. Can't wait for our guy JV to be back in the fold. For myself, Bo Brock, Craig Morgan, make sure you're following him on Twitter at Craig S. Morgan. Our guy Damon, Dawg, follow him as well, and the show at PHNX_Cardinals. Have a great rest of your Monday. Barring any breaking news, we'll talk to you on a Tuesday edition of PHNX Cardinals. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.